Hey everyone, it is Finn here and welcome back to another video where today we're going to be talking about Chelsea. I'm going to be talking about whether Frank Lampard should get sacked, I'm going to be talking about Chelsea's form in general and whether Chelsea should break their transfer record fee on Erling Haaland. All the good things. But talking about good, Chelsea at the moment, very much not good. They are currently 8th place I think on the Premier League table, 11 points off of first place, and I am shocked. Because I think that they are already out of the title race, to be honest with you. They are not competing, which going into the season, I'm so shocked by that. They spent like £230 million on signings, and already with so much of the season left, they're pretty much out of this title race. And I'll say this is going to sound a bit controversial. Chelsea fans, you're probably not going to like this, but I think if Timo Werner could at least hit the target, you guys would probably be in a top 4, maybe a top 5 or 6th place if he hits the target. And it's not a matter of him taking good shots every game that the keeper saves. He genuinely cannot hit the target, which for a player who scored over 40 goals in all competitions last season, that is shocking. Which, talking about hitting the target, guys, obviously trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube this year, so little quick competition here. How many of you can accurately hit that subscribe button down below if you have not already? I'm interested to see. You have about 3 seconds. Okay, did you hit it? Because Timo Werner probably would have missed. And talking about Chelsea strikers, it is so weird. I don't know what it is about Chelsea and their strikers, their number 9s, why they cannot score. I mean, past Didier Drogba in the Premier League, Chelsea have really struggled since that era to find a decent striker. I mean, Fernando Torres struggled, the likes of Higuain struggled, Morata struggled, now Timo Werner struggled. There's probably a bunch of strikers I missed there. The only decent striker they've probably had in recent years is Diego Costa, and I'll tell you why. I think when it comes to Timo Werner, obviously he's being played out of position at the moment at Chelsea. That's why I think he's not performing very well. He's being played as a winger because he has that pace. When he's not being played as I would say a false 9, I don't even think Timo Werner is a proper number 9 forward striker. He has enough pace on him to get forward. He should be played as a false 9. A striker moved a tiny bit back, moves forward with the wings and uses his pace. And the reason I think Diego Costa was so successful at Chelsea compared to Timo Werner is Diego Costa had that proper mentality where he fought for his club because he knew, okay, if I shoot and if he missed the goal, he said, well, I'm just going to score the next one. Where I think Timo Werner is in such a bad rut where at this stage he's like, I kind of need to score the next goal. I'm getting really nervous because I'm not scoring, and because of that anxiety, I think he's underperforming. Where if you get a player like Diego Costa, as I said, he just had that mentality for it. And I think in general at Chelsea, that is a major problem this season. I think not enough players are fighting for the badge. If I could say any players were fighting for the badge so far this season, when Azpilicueta plays, I think he fights for the badge. When players like Mason Mount, I think Mason Mount, and you guys have obviously heard this if you watch my regular weekly Premier League predictions, I think that when Mason Mount plays, he is probably one of the only players who fights every single game to win. He runs around the pitch, he doesn't do lazy passes, where the rest of the Chelsea midfield totally lazy and they take the easy way out. The only other exception to that is maybe N'Golo Kante, but he's always been like that because he's always had that mentality. Where if you look at the rest of the Chelsea midfielders, Kovacic been really hidden so far this season, and Kai Havertz, I don't even have to mention him. But now we're looking at bringing in more players at Chelsea. I say I myself am not a Chelsea fan, but the reason I'm making this video is because I'm sympathetic towards Chelsea fans. I'm a Manchester United fan, but I don't like seeing other top clubs fail, unless they're Arsenal. So Chelsea, I think that's where you and I get along quite well here. Because looking at Chelsea, they are now looking to solve their problems by buying a player like Erling Haaland, breaking their transfer fee. And how idiotic is that? Yes, I think there's lots of potential for him to do well there. I think Erling Haaland, out of all the strikers in recent years, actually looks like he might fit the Chelsea system. He's got a bit of pace to him. Along with that, he is a proper number 9. He's big, he's tall, he can get headers. But have Chelsea not learned anything this season by breaking the transfer record fee, that might not just do the job? Didn't they learn that 2-3 seasons ago when they broke the goalkeeper record fee for Kepa Arrizabalaga? And now so far this season, they broke records to get Kai Havertz, Timo Werner. They spent a lot of money and that didn't work. I don't think spending money is the problem. Yes, as I said, I think Haaland could do a decent job, but they've got Timo Werner. No, he's not performing well, but I still think that he has something in him. As I said, over 40 goals in all competitions last season, but play him properly. He is not a wing. And I know that is a struggle considering Abraham and Giroud are playing better than him. I mean, even if you brought back Michy Batshuayi from loan, he would be doing better than Werner. But I think the way this current system is working, he is not working well as a winger. Pull him back to a false nine position, and at the end of the day, I don't think Timo Werner is motivated. And that, unfortunately, I think does go down to the manager. Yes, players do have to motivate themselves, but Frank Lampard, I don't think that he's motivating these players very well. It would be different if it was a manager like Jose Mourinho, obviously, because he's won titles in the past, or an Ancelotti. That is the difference with Frank Lampard. You can't really back his ability because he doesn't have a huge history behind him. I know every manager has to start somewhere, but saying that, to start, like, obviously he was at Derby County before this, but to start your first major managerial career or campaign at Chelsea, I don't know. I think that was way too big a step for Frank Lampard. I think he should have managed maybe a West Ham or a team like that. And that's the same reason. As I said, I'm a United fan. I saw the same problem with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. Obviously an ex-player brought in. He never had any huge managerial jobs before that, and he didn't do too well. Yes, he initially started well, same as Frank Lampard, but due to him not having an incredible record behind him, he struggled to motivate the players because he didn't have that record behind him. So whether Frank Lampard is the right man for the job at Chelsea, I don't think so. I think, yes, give him time, but I don't think time is a matter of a year or two. I think Frank Lampard can go off and manage another club for maybe 3-4 years and come back at Chelsea. Work on his CV a tiny bit. I do like him as a manager. I think he's got the right intent. He knows Chelsea Football Club, but he doesn't take the necessary risks, in my opinion. His team will play awful with all 11 players on the pitch, and then in the next game, he'll play the exact same 11, maybe 1 or 2 changes. As we saw, this is just after the Leicester game where Leicester City beat Chelsea 2-0. And I mean, the only real change that I saw Lampard make was play Rudiger over Kurt Zouma, which I don't understand that by any means. Kurt Zouma has been Chelsea's best centre-back so far this season. So to me, that is completely shocking. He is not making the right changes. And talking about Chelsea's defence in general, ever since they brought Mendy in, I think Mendy is a fantastic signing. He started off really, really well, has made a mistake or two, but Chelsea's defence in general is really, really struggling. Looking at the left backs at Chelsea, I think Chilwell has been superb. He is really looking really, really good. Could work on his defending a tiny bit, but not bad at the end of the day. And I think Chelsea maybe should sell the likes of Marcus Alonso, the other left back, because he still is a top quality left back. They can get a good, decent amount of money for him. The centre-backs, Thiago Silva, as I said, I think he's a fantastic centre-back, one of the best in the world over the last 10 years. But in terms of Chelsea's future, I don't see him being there for very, very long. He is in his mid-30s, but hasn't been too bad this season, bar his debut. As I said, I think the perfect centre-back partnership for him would be Kurt Zouma. Young, full of so much promise, he fights for Chelsea. He's actually a player who has improved so much. As I said last season, when Chelsea lost 4-0 to Manchester United, I thought that Kurt Zouma was their biggest problem, but he has improved so much. So I don't know why Rudiger is getting game time over them. And talking about other centre-backs, why is Tomori supposedly going out on loan? The young Chelsea centre-back, English, so much potential. He wants to play for the club, getting loaned out to AC Milan with the offer to buy. I don't understand how you're going to play him under the likes of Rudiger or Andres Christensen. Tomori should be getting game time. You should be selling a player like Rudiger instead that doesn't have the years that Tomori will. Now, looking at the right backs for Chelsea, the big problem with football is players or supporters, fans, only look at numbers in terms of goals and assists, where Reece James has that compared to Azpilicueta, but unfortunately in that game versus Leicester, as you could see, he unfortunately was shocking with his crosses into the box. He still has so much to learn. And although Azpilicueta is a tiny bit slower, I think you need that level of... You need a veteran on the pitch, basically. You need that professional who's been there for a few years with experience. And I think that's what Azpilicueta brings to the table. So my big problem with Chelsea overall is defenders are struggling to defend at the moment. Midfielders can't hold the ball and they are doing safe passes, and the attackers can't score. So essentially no one is doing their job, and it is really shocking overall. As I said, looking at the midfielders, Bar Kante and Mason Mount, it has been very, very disappointing. I think that it was a really bad idea overall to get Kai Havertz into Chelsea. Yes, initially it looked like a really good idea, but they had the likes of Mason Mount there who was looking so promising. I don't actually think they needed to replace him with a big name signing, especially because the second choice attacking midfielder was the likes of Ross Barkley, who was loaned out to Aston Villa. And yes, that sounds like a very weird idea that I prefer Mount and Barkley over Kai Havertz, but look at what Barkley has done for Aston Villa so far this season. His numbers aren't necessarily great, but every time you watch Aston Villa, either Jack Grealish or Ross Barkley does something amazing. Ross Barkley would have fought for the badge, and that's not something Kai Havertz is doing. He comes across as very, very lazy, and that's what Chelsea needs. They need players who will fight for the badge. That's what the historic Chelsea teams are known to do. When they had players like John Terry, Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, all the players who would fight for the club. And I don't see that in this current Chelsea squad, unfortunately. So as I said, in terms of changing the team around a tiny bit, defensively, I think the defenders are very, very good. I wouldn't loan out Tomori. I would sell the likes of Rudiger. I would just work on maybe Reece James's ability in terms of what to do in terms of attacking and defensive situations. But other than that, Chelsea's defense is fine. The midfield, on the other hand, and the defense to an extent, when it comes to corners, they need to mark their man, or even just on a counter-attack play from the opposition. They need to close their man. That's why they conceded both those goals versus Leicester City. They do not close in on space, and they allow the opposition to take one or two shots, and that's why they end up losing games, and that's why they've lost lots of their games so far this season, because there is no team, bar Sheffield United, who has lost more games in the Premier League over the last 45 days than Chelsea. That is shocking considering the standard of players that are currently at Chelsea at the moment. I think Chelsea have a title-winning team. I think all the players in this current Chelsea team have the ability to win the league. I just don't think, unfortunately, Frank Lampard has the ability to manage them. I don't think that he's been manager long enough to know what to do. And unfortunately, I do think that's a problem. As I said, I think this Chelsea team is perfect. They need a manager that knows what to do with the individual players, that knows how to manage players, that knows how to motivate players. That's my biggest thing. And as I said, in terms of getting the strikers rolling, just move Timo Werner into the proper position, move him a bit deeper, and motivate him as well. But guys, that is pretty much it for today's video. As I said, please, if you're not subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscribe button down below. It would really, really mean a lot to me. And do like this video as well. Trying to reach 1,000 subscribers this year. But at the end of the day, guys, I hope you have all enjoyed this video. Love and appreciate you very, very much. This has been FYNN. Stay awesome. Cheers.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me.